All right, good afternoon, Ryan Bowling here. All right, I was just going to quickly show you all or walk through the steps of setting up the FTP when you're transferring a file to a carrier. This is probably the simplest part. So essentially, I did a little drawing here to kind of walk you through the idea of what we're doing here. But so this box right here, this is essentially Selerix right here. We're inside of Selerix, or any system for that matter, where you're creating the file. So whatever file it is, it could be an Excel file, it could be an ANSI 834 file, it could be any type of file that you, oops, had that spelled wrong, but any type of file that you're creating inside of Selerix. So again, we create with the specs that they provide to us, the different type of file, and then now we're going to pass it to, eventually what we're trying to do is to get it dropped onto the carrier's server. So again, we're pushing a file once a week, an 834 file, or if it's an Excel file, whatever it is. But we are, the only way to get it onto their servers, we have to get through essentially this door. It's the SFTP or the FTP delivery. So we want that file, in order to get it on the server, we've got to get some information put in here to get through that door. Basically, the key, we need to have the information that's locking us out right now to get us into that door. Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you how to set up this piece. So essentially, when you're setting up the file and talking to a carrier, this is an example of an older one, but the vision file with Delta Dental, essentially they need to provide, what they need to provide us is the URL that we're sending, basically the web address of where I'm going to, the username, the password, and the port. It's generally always port 22, okay, that we're going to be dropping that on. When he mentions here the encryption key is attached, this is what an encryption key kit looks like, and I'll show you what we do with that here in a second. But that's just another layer of security in order to get through the FTP that we want to include, just to make it even more secure. So as you can see here, he's provided me with my username and my password. And he says here, when you're naming the file, put a test name in the file, a test in the file name, and I'll show you how to do that too as well. This is where we are going to name the file, is in when we're creating the FTP. So when we're back here in Selerix, so we're going to go to our plugins. So there's two different types of plugins. There's a delivery, and then there's also the actual file itself. On this case, we have not set up an actual file yet, or created the file. I'm just essentially getting this step done of creating the FTP, or again, the key, the door to drop that file after we've created it into this into their server. So essentially, if I hadn't already set this up, you would just want to go to New, Delivery, and it's just an FTP PGP. So that's what the PGP key was earlier said. So we're just going to create new. You'll click Create New, and it will take us back here, and it will give us to these steps where we're edit here. So here, it would, if I just click new back there a second ago, it would take me right here. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. I always get descriptive. I always put the name of the carrier, dash 11, the client name. And also, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and put FTP, or the file transfer protocols, what FTP is, okay? Here we go, back to our options. So essentially, as you can see back here, we're not going to use it. This is the same company, so but this is for a different client, but this is the same carrier, Delta Dental and Surancy. So the Delta Dental one is sftp.deltadentalks.com. So it's the same thing, but I just wanted to show you what an actual email looked like with the information on there. So we'll go back to our, so he's provided us with that information. So the protocol is SFTP. If he would have given me an address that had only FTP dot the carrier's name or whatever .com, then I would use the FTP protocol. But in this case, he used SFTP, which is Secure File Transfer Protocol. I don't really know the difference, but that's the one he used. Host name. So again, they provided that to us already. Actually, it is FTP Delta Dental ks.com. That's the address he provided for me. The port 22 is already there. Generally, again, like I mentioned, it's always going to be 22 unless they note it is something different. Fingerprint, that's when we're going to test our connection to make sure we're getting in that door, our key works good. Go ahead and put in the username and password that they provided. Again, this one's a little bit different than what I showed you on the email. Z2PCD4N. Okay. The remote directory, now that's where we're going to be dropping the file. Generally, for the most part, so a carrier is going to ask you to drop it into a file maybe called test. It's basically dropping it in a folder called test, or dropping it in a folder called the name of the client. In this case, they want us to drop it on the root directory, which is you just want to go ahead and put a slash there, so nothing there. Here's where you'll name the file. So again, in this case, we're going to name it test Leavenworth. So when the file goes over, this is the actual name, if I could type, of the file when it lands on their server. Sometimes they'll give you the actual name of what they want it to say. Delta doesn't really care, so I can name it whatever I want, but at least they know they will put the group's name. But he just requested now that it says test. I can put production in there too as well, PROD, when we get to production, that we have a live key or a live file. The PGP that they showed us earlier, it's right here. You want to drop it in there. I've already downloaded the one for the Delta Dental, and when you get it, you want to copy everything inside of it. Everything all the way to the bottom. Right click. Ooh, that's not the one. This is the PGP key. So when it says begin with PGP key, you want to get everything, including the top and the bottom. Copy. Go back in here. Right click. Paste. It's all in there. Sometimes people provide the PGP key. Not everybody does. You can ask them if that's the case. Contact information. I used to put contact information in here. I don't anymore. Really doesn't mean anything. And I don't put anything in the signature key. So we're dropping it on the root directory. Again, if they ask you to drop it somewhere special, you would put that slash and then the root and then the name of the folder. You're essentially dropping it in a folder just like your regular, like you would think Windows. So right now, if I dropped it in the root file, it'd be in my Dropbox. If I dropped it in accounts 2017, it'd be slash accounts 2017 on their server. So you just got to think of it that way. We got my username and password. Now I'm going to test my connection. And it failed miserably. Just make sure I got this on here right. Worth 18. 4Z 2P CD4N. Try one more time. Failed. Let's see if this works. Nope. Let me just copy this in case I got that wrong. No, we got a success. Okay, that was the issue. So again, you got to play with it sometimes, but make sure your password's correct. I had FTP.delta. It should have been SFTP. So that's where my issue was. So I got that connected. I got that right. That's where he told me to drop it. Again, going back to looking at same as the rest. Ask for SFTP. I already had their encryption key. He gave me the username, password, and now we're connected. Test connection success. So that means I now have, going back to our fun little diagram here, I now have this door key. So now I just need to create the file, and I'm going to pass it through there, and it's going to get onto his server. So now I am basically have access to Delta's server with my files. We'll just show you real quickly what that looks like in another case. I were to send it, since I didn't have any files set up on my other one, I've got the ANSI 834 set up with Delta Dental. If I were to run this file now, see on my other case I didn't have any files set up. But if I were to run this file now, Delta Dental, all carriers, all locations, full report, and I'm going to deliver it. And now I would be delivering it to that SFTP. That would show up now here, that one we just created, just like that, Delta Dental SFTP. And so if I select OK, and I hit run now it's going to pass through that SFTP, and it's going to go and drop it on their server since we've set it up correctly and we have full connection. Okay? I know it's pretty quick, but just wanted to put that together. Again, that's just the middle part. That's not actually creating the file itself. I'll do another demo here when I create the actual Delta Dental file itself, so you can have that for your records. Thank you.